Okay, so that was a story of turning a bad situation into an opportunity to talk about police and a voluntary society. Even better than that is what's happening in New Hampshire. So that was the Dayton, Ohio cop block, and I didn't mean to frame it this way, it just sort of happened. But, that was the Dayton, Ohio cop block activists. Now we got, boom, some serious New Hampshire liberty activists. This story from nhjournal.com. Headline, New New Hampshire Hybrid PAC aims to transform GOP into Party of Liberty that embraces millennials. The GOP, just right off the bat, seems to me to be like a dying political party. Nobody's interested in them. It's a bunch of stuffy old white guys trying hard to get a Mexican, Spanish sort of population demographic voting for them by feigning interest, but then really ruining that sort of angle by all the tough border talk, anti-immigration stuff. So the Republicans are dying. There's no more people becoming Republicans, except maybe in New Hampshire. A new hybrid PAC, this reading from the article posted by John DiStasso. A new hybrid PAC announced today by New Hampshire Liberty Movement conservatives Aaron Day and Matt Phillips intends to focus initially on supporting Andrew Hemingway for governor and like-minded candidates for the state senate, but has its eyes on a bigger prize. The Stark 360 PAC also intends to be a player in the 2016 first-in-the-nation presidential primary campaign and transform the Republican Party into a party of liberty that embraces the millennial generation. The PAC is taking unlimited contributions for its independent expenditure activities, and according to Day and Phillips, in addition to accepting cash, Stark 360 will also accept contributions in Bitcoin, a new decentralized digital form of currency free of external government interference. As for its goal, here is how Day put it in his news release. Crushing debt, unfunded entitlements, the government takeover of healthcare, overregulation, the decaying of our public schools, and massive government intrusion into our private lives are a direct assault on our liberty and individual rights. What if we could prove that liberty works? What if we could transform the Republican Party into a party of liberty that embraces the millennial generation? What if we could break the cycle of failed Republican candidates who support the expansion of the welfare state and position the country for a Goldwater-Reagan Republican in 2016? The PAC first wants to elect the first pro-liberty millennial governor, Andrew Hemingway, and win a pro-liberty majority for the Republicans in our 424-person state legislature. Day is chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus of New Hampshire, which has endorsed 12 GOP candidates for the state senate, including 5 who are taking on sitting GOP senators in primaries. This is a big deal in New Hampshire. You would never hear me, an anarchist, talking about blah blah state elections. Boring. Snooze fest. Seriously, I even hesitate to bring up this article. But it's important in New Hampshire, and here's why. Because of what was just mentioned there. The 424-person state legislature. First of all, that's huge. Compare it with your state legislature, guarantee it's bigger. Then, they're mostly small town folks. The compensation for a role as a representative, $100. $100 is your compensation for being a representative. So these are not the power-hungry, money-hungry, greedy fat cats who write regulations to protect their friends and benefit cronies. This is average folks. And if people are moving to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project and are failing to get elected where they live, consider moving here. Not only will your campaign have a better impact, you also have a better chance at winning. Spread liberty here in all possible ways, political and outside the system. This is Peace News Now. So before Dalek called in, we were talking about this New Hampshire PAC that is changing the face of republicanism, at least in New Hampshire. Republicans have a bad name. Conservative is a four-letter word in most circles. It's a pejorative in places like New York and California. But here in New Hampshire, something different is happening with the Republican Party. And to me, as an anarchist, the way I view this is not about Republicans at all. No, this is about the appearance of legitimacy working within the system to bring radical change. Because what these pro-liberty candidates believe, well, I can only speculate. But I would speculate that they believe in total human freedom. Meaning, humans are not intended to have masters or owners, that each individual is a sovereign unto himself, a country of his own, the master of his destiny, and that the government has no role in a free man's life. So I speculate that these so-called Republicans are running as Republicans for the guise of legitimacy. There are other political people in New Hampshire who have attempted to found their own party. The Peace and Liberty Party, I think, is one. New Hampshire Peace and Liberty Party is one that Gerald W. Perry kicks around. But no one takes that seriously. And why should they? First of all, the anarchists don't take the voting seriously. And then the statists don't take the third party seriously. So it's a lose-lose. Assessing this situation as a strategist, what would you do? You'd put the anarchists, you put them right in there with the R's and the D's. Why should they have their own party? And what party is least favorable these days? Democrats. They've been in power for 8 years, right? They're in power with Obama, the wars of aggression, prohibition. It looks to me, reading this NHJournal.com article, that the time is ripe for pro-liberty movers, and pro-liberty anyone, really, if you live in the area of New Hampshire for a long time or whether you just moved here. If you're interested in advancing liberty in the political sphere, one wise way to do it would be to join up with this PAC. This is a very nice idea. Continuing from NHJournal.com, the article writes, quoting former Governor John H. Sununu, that Iowa picks corn, New Hampshire picks presidents. Day said that in the recent primaries, the state actually picked losing presidential candidates. A small elite group of the New Hampshire Republican establishment, corrupted by D.C. interest groups, has disenfranchised New Hampshire voters, alienated the youth vote, and manipulated party rules for personal advantage. In particular, the treatment of Ron Paul in New Hampshire and the egregious manipulation of the rules aimed at harming Ron Paul delegates in the 2012 presidential race needs to end. Talking about New Hampshire hybrid PAC aiming to transform the GOP blah blah political talk from an anarchist, you say. I agree. However, this is happening in New Hampshire, which makes everything different. because New Hampshire has representatives, small town folks that are actually accountable to the people. They don't get paid more than $100 a year, which means it's a little more difficult to incentivize the power hungry to go after these positions. Tends to be people who like liberty, like freedom, want to represent their friends and neighbors honorably. So just finishing up the article here, he says that while the PAC founders see Hemingway leading the charge in New Hampshire, they will also focus on legislative races, particularly in certain state Senate primary contests, and even attempt to secure more members of the Republican State Committee. Okay, so they're going after the Republicans. That's the point. This hybrid PAC, what's it calling itself? Stark 360 PAC. They can accept unlimited funds. That's pretty cool, too. You know, there are some real advantages to using the system that the government people set up for themselves, right? They set up these mechanisms where they say, oh, and here's this little loophole where you can send me, Mr. Politician, endless amounts of money. Well, same loophole for them works for you, right? So why not set up your own?